Welcome you all to this wonderful institution, the University of Toronto, one of the best institutions of higher learning in Canada and in North America. Dear honorary guests, participants and organizers of Vadis III, a conference that for the third time brings together dynamic and enthusiastic students and young professionals from Polish communities around the world who share a dream of becoming new builders and leaders of these communities. I am very pleased to see this particular conference being hosted by the University of Toronto, an institution that is a home to two first-class North American centers of research and academic teaching on Polish history, literature, language and culture, the Polish Language and Literature program in the Slavic department, and chair of Polish history in the history department, both of which have been sustained by the multi-generational efforts of the Polish community. I hope that during the 3 days when you will be deliberating your visions and aspirations and turning those into successful new solutions, innovative methods, effective tools, and new ways of thinking, communicating, and collaborating, this university will indeed feel like home to you, as it already does to so many of us in this room. How appropriately to launch your conference in Hart House, a place at the University of Toronto where all voices, rhythms, and traditions converge. When Vincent Massey, whose family commissioned this building, opened it on Remembrance Day, 1919, and he was 22 at the time, he said, "The bricks and mortar are but the bones. The community must provide the spirit." And since your conference is about community building and community leadership, let the spirit of the diverse intellectual, artistic, cultural, and social community at this university serve as an example of greatness that can be achieved when leadership means first and foremost giving to others. Let the tools for success, as you have titled your conference, be your bricks and mortar, solid, lasting, and most of all, concrete, not to mention beautiful, if you look around. But let the community spirit, free, generously shared across times and generations, created and inspiring, be your guiding value. I wish you all exciting and fruitful experience during your conference at the University of Toronto, because indeed, where great minds and spirits meet, great ideas are born.
Welcome me here for the second time to Vadis. I had the pleasure of joining you on behalf of the Government of Canada and Prime Minister Stephen Harper at the conference in Windsor last year, at which we were honored to receive Senator Varin-Jarkowski from Warsaw, Speaker of the Senate and responsible for Polonia around the world, who was clearly moved by the example of renewed leadership being offered by young members of Polonia in Canada, the United States, and the rest of the world. Let me congratulate all of the organizers and the volunteers for making this dream possible. You know, I understand how much work it takes to organize just one conference, to take something from a concept and to turn it into reality, but then to sustain that and to grow that as you have in the QVIII series of conferences is a phenomenal achievement. And it's a great credit to the youth leaders in Polonia and Canada and elsewhere that you have made this happen. Canada is a appropriate place to host Vadis, because this is a country whose tradition of pluralism, of unity and diversity, of multiculturalism is seen as an example to the rest of the world. Here in Canada, we have for centuries said that people are welcome to bring their cultures, their faiths, to maintain fidelity to the tradition of their ancestors, and to maintain a fierce pride in what is best about their cultures of origin, while at the same time becoming fully Canadian. In fact, the man who first introduced the idea of multiculturalism into our national political debate, into our parliament, was a conservative senator named Senator Paul Yulsik, who was the child of Ukrainian immigrants to the prairies, whose family, like so many other immigrants from Eastern and Central Europe, helped to settle the Canadian West. He grew up in a country, probably in a town in rural Saskatchewan, where for the first few years he probably spoke nothing but Ukrainian. And yet he went on to earn a PhD in sociology at the University of Manitoba and be appointed as the first senator of Ukrainian origin in the Canadian Parliament by Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. And he said that when there was a Royal Commission in 1965 suggesting that Canada should identify itself as being bilingual and bicultural, he responded in a famous speech where he said, "What about the rest of us who do not trace our ancestry to either of the two founding nations, the British or the French settlers? What about what he called the third force, the other 1/3 of Canadians whose ancestry came from other countries?" He said, "We want to be fully Canadian. We want to live in accordance with Canada's fundamental political values, respect for human dignity, freedom, human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. We want there to be unity in our diversity, but we also want to feel like we are full and equal citizens." And that is why he introduced the concept of multiculturalism into our national political discourse. He reflected on the words of the former Canadian Governor General, Lord Tweedsmuir, who, in visiting a small prairie village of Eastern European immigrants in 1924, said that it is by being good, he said to that village, he said, by being good Poles and by being good Ukrainians, that you will also be good Canadians. And that's how we've always properly understood multiculturalism. But in today's world, we have new challenges. With the velocity of immigration to this country, we have the challenge of ensuring that people successfully and rapidly integrate and don't end up for multiple generations living in parallel communities. But for well-established cultural communities like Polonia, we have the unique challenge of ensuring that integration doesn't completely dissolve the cultural distinctiveness of particular communities. And that's the challenge that young leaders of Polonia have answered through the Vadis movement and conferences. A concrete, practical effort to sort out how can you renew the pride, the vitality, the identity of Polonia in a Canada in which you as young Canadians are totally Canadian and fully integrated. How do you do that linguistically? How do you do that culturally? How do you do that socially and in so many other ways? But one way that we can do that is by giving back to our country, by serving Canada. And I want to highlight the democratic service and leadership offered by two new parliamentary colleagues, Mr. Waterloo, who went from being a strong voice for Polonia as president of the PCC. I can tell you that had it not been for his leadership in revitalizing the Polish-Canadian Congress, in developing a focused agenda and bugging the heck out of people like me. Had it not been for that, we would not today have visa-free travel between Poland and Canada. That was the result of his leadership. Thanks to that kind of leadership and loud and strong, clear voice for Polonia, we ended up as a government restoring veterans' benefits and veterans' status to the Polish combatants who helped to liberate Europe from the fascist terror of the Second World War. So give the Polonia a hand for having us do that. Thanks to strong leadership from Polonia, our government responded by upgrading significantly Canada's bilateral relations with Poland, witnessed by Prime Minister Harper's visit to Poland in 2009, and the creation of the agreement of our social services agreement and the youth mobility agreement, which has now opened the doors to Canada to thousands of young Poles who want to come and work and study in this country. All of these things happen because of a strong, united voice in Polonia. And now, Władysław has gone on to become elected a member of Parliament, where he'll be a voice for all of his constituents, but he'll have a particular understanding of the concerns, the history, the aspirations of Polonia, as will his colleague, Member of Parliament-elect Audit from QVIII. And so I just offer these two good Canadians of Polish origin as an example to young members of Polonia here in Canada and elsewhere about how you can serve the community, maintain fidelity to your identity, your faith, your Polish culture, and teach the rest of Canadians about what fidelity really means. Because, as we all remember 2 Sundays ago with the beatification of Blessed Pope John Paul II, the very existence of Polish culture, the very existence of Poland as a free and independent state was an act of tremendous will. It was a dream that overcame for centuries and then in the 20th century decades of foreign presence, of oppression, of tyranny, and totalitarianism. And so that Polish spirit which kept alive the dream of a proud, free, and independent Polish nation is something that people of Polish descent can teach to all Canadians. And I want to encourage young leaders in Polonia to do that. So I hope that this weekend you will help to learn from each other, develop new and vital ideas about how to maintain the reality of Polonia here in North America and throughout the entire international diaspora, so that you too will pass on to your children that identity, that sense of fidelity to the past, that generations of Poles have kept alive. Thank you very much.
I have a distinct honor this evening, and I understand, Minister, that you are Russian. But I have the distinct honor of presenting what will be the first awards of the Vadis conference to organizations and folks that have been instrumental in making this happen. This is, as you all know, is the third year where a remarkable idea has become very much a reality, and I will echo His Excellency's words, and now it doesn't. Jest ogromna przyjemność, że mogę dzisiaj wieczorem zrobić prezentację pierwszych nagród dla tych organizacji, raczej dla tych rządów i dla tych osób, co się włożyli w swoją pracę, aby to było konkretne. I po raz trzeci, znowu tak jak Ekscelencja powiedział, teraz już 3 razy zrobiliśmy, to jest teraz tradycja polska. The first award that is to be given is, again, an organization in its largest sense, and that organization is the government of Poland. Pierwsza nagroda będzie dana na ręce Rzeczypospolitej Polskiej, and specifically the Senate of Poland, who has responsibility for the Polonia community and the Polonia diaspora. We would like to present this award and have it received by His Excellency the Ambassador, who represents the government of Poland. And the dedication for this award reads, to the Senate of the Republic of Poland for the continuing support of the International Young Polonia Leaders Conference. Pierwsza nagroda idzie na ręce Pana Ambasadora i Ekscelencję i to jest na ręce Senatu Polski, który ma ogromny wkład, co poparł tą